Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We start with the 5090 November 2020 paper 1-2, and this is the question 21 to 40 which we are going to discuss. Starting with question 21, what describes a reflex action? What describes a reflex action? Now, of course, the answer is it is a rapid response to a stimulus involving the spinal cord, but I want to tell you why B is wrong. It is a rapid response detected by motor neurons. Sorry, motor neurons go to muscles and glands, and these are effectors. So motor neurons, M motor, M muscle. So they go to muscles and glands and they are effectors. They don't detect anything. Like for instance, reflex action is you touch a hot object and you withdraw your hand. You touch something hot and immediately you withdraw your hand. You might be talking to somebody, but your hand falls on something hot, well, you immediately pull away without thinking even. It is a slow response. This was wrong. Then it is a slow response detected by motor neuron again. So basically the slow response was wrong. Here it was wrong because it is a rapid response, but detected by motor neuron was the wrong part. Motor neurons are the effectors. They carry impulses. Please do not say the word message. This is not an SMS or a message. It's an impulse. The word that we use is an electrical impulse. And muscles can either contract or relax, or glands will cause secretions to be released. 22, a person looks at some hills far away. So we have to remember these two mnemonics: near, more convex; distant, less convex. And then we have to remember how does the lens. So when you're looking at something far away, which row shows the states of the lens, ciliary muscles, and suspensory ligaments in the eyes? So thick lenses, will it be distant, less convex? So then it has to be either these. Contracted ciliary muscle, no. Suspensory ligaments are under tension, yes. Why? Because they have pulled the lens thin. You need to look this up in the video in the chapter on coordination to sort of do the eye part, which I have revised with you, and I've explained this to you what happens in near and what happens in the distant when you're looking at something far away, and when you're looking at something like when you're reading a book. Like I'm looking at my tablet now, and I have so near, so it will be my lens will be more convex. Then coming to question number 23. What is a sign of diabetes? Something which you can check. Sign is something which you can check. Symptoms is something which the patient feels but you cannot check. Like if I have a headache, that's a symptom. If I have an abdominal pain, it's a symptom. If I have a rash, it's a sign because the doctor can see it. Somebody can see the rash. If you have fever, yes, I can check it. I can take a thermometer and check do you have fever? I didn't say temperature. We all have a temperature of 37. Having a higher temperature is having fever. So please understand this. What is a sign of diabetes which you can check? You see glucose in the blood. Why is that wrong? Is because we all have glucose in the blood. In diabetes, what happens is a higher level of glucose in the blood. Insulin in the blood is present all the time. Insulin is not present in the urine. It's actually converted to something else and then removed in the urine. So glucose, sign of diabetes. Diabetes is a disease which results because of the pancreas not producing insulin. So what will happen is that if a patient says, well, I'm a diabetic, I'd say, well, how did you find out you're a diabetic? And they say, well, we did a test on the urine and the urine contained glucose. So this is a sign of diabetes. Then coming on to question number 24, the diagram shows the bones of the forelimb. And then they've given you certain points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they say which labels show where the muscles that straighten the hinge joint is attached. Muscle that straightens the hinge joint. Now you see, if I have to draw here, then this one which I'm drawing in front, this will be the biceps muscle. And the biceps is attached here, and it is attached here, and it is attached here. So the biceps muscle is in the front, and the biceps muscle results in what? Flexion. Biceps bends the arm at the elbow. B bends the arm at the elbow. And then we have, of course, here we have the triceps at the back. So the triceps is attached here and here. So this is what you have to understand, is that the triceps would be the one which is attached at 1 and 2. It shows the muscles which straighten the hinge joint. So this is the triceps muscle. Triceps muscle does what? Extends the arm at the middle. You want to straighten your arm. When you straighten your arm, you extend your arm. And that, of course, is the triceps muscle, and that is 1 and 2. 25. Which of these diseases can be treated effectively with antibiotics? HIV is a virus. It's the causative organism of AIDS. Malaria is caused by Plasmodium, a pathogen which is a protozoa. Syphilis is caused by a bacteria. So antibiotics, B for biotics, antibiotics are only given in bacterial diseases. But please do not mix this with the other word antibodies. Your lymphocytes make antibodies. So this is, we are not talking of that, we're talking of antibiotics. So that is why the answer was only syphilis. Question 26. The table shows the characteristics of four microorganisms. Which one could be a virus? Now you know this, many times I've said virus has only got a protein coat, and inside this either it has a DNA strand or it has an RNA strand. So the DNA or RNA is a nucleic acid, contains one or many cells. No, it's only one. It's not even a cell. This virus is not even called a cell. It's acellular, or we say it's non-cellular, because there's no cytoplasm. It cannot exist on its own. It's actually a total parasite. It has to grow on a host cell, contains one or more nuclei, no, produce spores, no. So that is why this was the line which was correct, because none of this was correct about viruses. Viruses is not even a cell. It has no nucleus. It does not even produce any spores. It does not produce anything. So please understand this. Then coming on to question 27, a fermenter is used to produce penicillin. You know, you add the fungus called penicillium. So that was the same in all these 4 points. So you have to read all these four, and you said to keep the penicillium in contact with fresh oxygen and nutrients. Well, that was the correct answer. But why are these three wrong? B, to move the penicillium to the bottom of the fermenter. Why would we want to do that? We want to mix it up. Just like you stir your cup and you've added sugar to it, you stir your tea or your coffee so that the sugar dissolves in it. Now you want the penicillium to react with all the nutrients and the oxygen so that it starts to grow, and then it has to produce the antibiotic penicillin. To move the penicillin to the top of the fermenter, to stop the penicillin reacting with the wall of the fermenter. The wall of the fermenter has nothing to do with it. It doesn't even react. It has to be made of something inert, so it doesn't react with the fungus. The fungus called penicillium. Next, question 28. Which statement describes relationships in ecosystems? Carbohydrates are passed from decomposer to producers. Energy is passed from carnivores to herbivores. Proteins are passed from primary consumers to producers. Well, basically, what was it? You see, decomposers are not, they will pass it, they can't be passing to producers. It goes back into the soil, and then the soil will take it up from the producers. And carbohydrates are not passed. The microorganism, in fact, respire the carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are passed from producers to herbivores. That is like when a sheep or a goat or a cow eats grass, well, it's getting the carbohydrates, it's getting the starch, it's converting it into glucose and respiring it, and energy is being released. Next, 29. The diagram shows a food web of organisms found in a pond. So we have dragonfly larvae, stickleback, pike, hydra, splanchna, leech, mosquito larvae, paramecium, algae, daphnia. Now, which organism is both a herbivore and a carnivore? Now, let's look at it very carefully. You see, this one has to be eating the plant matter as well. So this is algae is the plant matter. Algae is the plant matter. So the arrows coming out of algae is now this here. But the algae is also eaten up by the paramecium, and the paramecium is also eaten up by the mosquito larva. So when the mosquito larva is having the algae, it is a herbivore. But when it is eating the paramecium, it is a carnivore. Now that is the only one which was doing that. The other ones are not. Like Daphnia is here we have Daphnia is just a herbivore. Why? Because he's eating the algae. And then the Daphnia is consumed by the Hydra. So the Hydra is a carnivore, and the Daphnia is consumed by the Splanchna. That is also a carnivore. So you have to understand what we are trying and how we are talking about this. Okay, then we come on to question number 30. The diagram shows a nitrogen cycle. Which stage is carried out by nitrifying bacteria? Ammonium compounds to nitrates in the soil. Nitrifying bacteria is nitrification. So this was the part. So nitrifying bacteria convert the ammonium compounds to nitrites and then nitrites to nitrates. So ammonium compounds in the soil to nitrates in the soil would be the nitrifying bacteria. Question 31. Three statements about malarial parasite are listed. Insecticide are used to kill the vector. Yes, insecticide are used to kill the female Anopheles mosquito so that they do not transmit the malaria. Netting is used to keep the vectors away from the people. Yes, if you sleep inside a mosquito net and you have this on your bed and you sleep inside it, well, then you are protecting yourself so that the mosquito doesn't come and suck your blood. People take drugs that stop the malarial pathogen developing. So which methods can be used to control malaria? So what we have to understand is all these three methods which could have been used. So it is 1, 2, and 3, and that was the answer because all three methods can be used. Then coming on to question number 32, what would be an undesirable feature of an insecticide? What would be an undesirable feature of an insecticide? You see, the other ones are all desirable. This is what you have to remember, that three of them are desirable and the other. So insecticides, the good thing about it must break down within a few months. It destroys one particular insect only, which we are tired of, which we as a farmer feel is destroying our crops. It destroys the immature forms of an insect, which will develop into an insect later on. So undesirable feature is it becomes more concentrated in each stage in the food web. This is the undesirable, and that of course results in problems, and it accumulates, increases in the undesirable feature of an insecticide. Then coming to question 33, the diagram shows a flower cut in half. Which two parts of the flower produce haploid gametes? So you remember, if we talked about this in another paper, it's the anthers which produce the pollen. So these are the anthers. And the anthers are four pollen sacs, and they result in the production of the pollen grain, which is the gamete. And the other one which we talk about is the female gamete is going to develop here. So the female gametes are here, and they're going to develop, and then fertilization is going to take place, and then of course these ovules will become the seeds. So it had to be 2 and 4, and that is of course, if you need to revise this plant reproduction, then we need to be clear on that. Next, 34. The diagram shows a section through a non-endospermic seed. One is the cotyledons, two is the plumule, three is the radicle, and as I tell you before, radicle develops into the root, and four is the testa. Now the question is, which structures develop into the adult plant? When you plant the seed in the soil, so the roots grow and then the shoots grow, but then this seed finishes off. So what is becoming the root and the shoot? So what is becoming the root and the shoot is the radicle and the plumule. So that is 2 and 3. The radicle and the plumule develop into the adult plant. Next, 35. Which row describes a cause, a symptom, and a treatment for syphilis? Now we know syphilis is caused by a bacterium, so these two are wrong. Now here we have a problem. In the symptoms it said development of painful joints and severe headaches, and this of course is the same for both of them, and that was a key point that you understand. It has to be syphilis symptoms are only development of painful joints. You don't have headaches in syphilis. Okay, question 36. The diagram shows changes in the thickness of the uterus during one menstrual cycle. Thickness of the uterus lining, you see it was thick here, so let's put some figures here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, say millimeter. and then this was the lining, and then the lining is becoming thinner, and then it's again increasing, and then sort of decreasing a little here. When would the levels of progesterone and LH be the highest? LH be the highest. Now, if you remember, the LH is the one which peaks on day 14. So, would be the highest progesterone and LH. And then, if you remember, progesterone starts to increase and then remains high and then starts to decrease. So, LH is on day 14. LH is on day 14. There's no other answer. LH, you remember, has a luteinizing hormone. That's when ovulation starts. So it always peaks on day 14. Please revise this from the chapter on menstrual cycle. My videos, there are lots of videos on that, and I have also made a video on that chapter, so please go through that. Between day 19 and 23. Yeah, that's right. Between day 19 and 23, we would have the um, progesterone increasing. Question 37. In a species of mouse, fur color can be black and white. Two black female mice were allowed to mate with the same black male. One female had 9 young, all of which were black. Now, this is the one. The other female had 7 young, 5 black and 2 white. You see, it was black were crossed with black. So now there are two possibilities. Black can be either this or they can be this. So the one which had all 9 young must have been big B into big B, small b. So it is this one. Then it says one female had 9 young, all were black. Fine. So these are the 9, all were black. The other female had 7 young, 5 black and 2 white. So that means that this must have been big B small b into big B small b. So you have a ratio of 3:1. So you have 5:2, 5 to 2 they had. So of course this is 3:1, but of course you have 5, they were black and 2 white. Now these were the 2 white. Then it says one of these white mice, so this was this one, and is allowed to mate with a heterozygous female. So the heterozygous female must be this. And now we come to this situation. Now in this situation, what is the expected ratio of phenotypes? So 2 were black and 2 were white, so 1:1. So that is why the answer was A. Please go through this again once more and go through this and pause the video here and have a look at it. Question 38, I've discussed this in a previous video as well. The diagram shows the blood group phenotypes of some members of a family. Which member of the F1 generation must be heterozygous with the codominant alleles? So that means this must be blood group AB. Now, when we are very clear about blood group O. Blood group O has to be IO. So these two are IO. So the children, they have to be this. A has to be IO. Right? Now let's go on to the other children. Now we can O, we are 100% which are IO. But the A and the B we are not sure. So now let's go back and let's figure this out, how and what it can be. You see, parent A we are sure is IO, but then they have a child whose blood group A and they have a child whose blood group B. So this IO has to come, this IO has to come from the parent. So then both the children get this IO, but then if they one is B and one is A, so this has to be IB and this has to be IA. So where did this B and A come from? Where did this B and A come from? It has to come from this parent, because this parent is only IO, because that is the because parent F1 generation, the blood group O and blood this parent this and this parent. So this child A has to be IO. But then this parent A is the father and this is B is the mother, and the children, they have a B group and an A group. So where did the A and the B come from? It has to come from the mother. So mother has to be IB. Now in this situation, of course, we have one. So now look at this one. I want to explain this to you as well. So that means IO has come from one parent and IO has come from the other parent. But then this child is group A. So one parent has to be giving them IA. So this is how we had to figure this out and how we were going to come up with this answer, and why was B the answer to this. Question 39. Which human characteristic show discontinuous variation? Discontinuous variation, is a blood groups and is gender. Are you a tongue roller or a non-roller? Means there are only two or three categories. So in sickle cell anemia, either you are a sufferer or you're not a sufferer. So this shows discontinuous variation. Height shows continuous, heart rate is continuous, body mass is continuous. So these are all examples of continuous variation. So this is also a way that how you can revise this. So heart rate is also different. Body mass is of course very variable. Height is very variable of 16-year-old boys or 16-year-old girls. Okay, now looking at question number 40, which is the last question. A farmer wants to produce extra large sweet oranges. Now look at the points. Extra large. So now extra large means we must have this point in it. But there's only one here, so it had to be two. And then it says sweet oranges. So sweet percentage sugar content can be 10 and 20. So we have to select either this or this. Now why would I select 4? Because this is highest and it's got 9 and 12. So it had to be large, extra large. Now if I chose 3, 3 is 6 to 9 size is very small. So this was wrong. And well, this was fine. The sugar was high, but then it was very small. So 3 I would not choose. That is why I did not choose 3. 3 I did not choose. So I chose 2 and 4. And why did I choose 2 and 4? You have to understand why 2. Because 2 had a large size. 12 to 15, there's only one cross in 12 to 15. So we had to plant 2. And then 4, I had to see the sugar content. So the sugar content was high in 3 and 4. But I didn't want 3 because 3 has a very, this was not a very good idea to use 3. Look at it. Why did I not choose 3? 3 is 6 to 9. 6 to 9 centimeters, so it's a very small size. So that's why I chose 2 and 4. So this is why you have to understand why selecting breeding, why 2 and 4 was the answer, because you wanted extra large and you wanted extra large and sweet oranges by selective breeding. So this was the last question, and I hope this is clear to everybody. So best of luck, and inshallah see you in the next MCQ very soon. I'll be uploading that as well. Video has questions 21 to 40, and this is the second video. Thank you very much.